The time has come for us to sew our two halves together and make an actual stuffed monster. So I have my front half and I have my back half. It's time to sew the two together and stuff them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just do our trick where we stop our knot from coming through our material. So I'm going to start on my front half and I'm going to poke my needle through the shoulder from the back. So right there in the shoulder, poke my needle through pretty close to the edge, and I'm going to pull it. And this time, instead of going back through, I'm actually going to pull it till I'm almost to my knot. Keep an eye on your knot. There, oh, there it was. There it is, right there. And I'm going to take my thread and wrap it around the shoulder, back to the back, and that's when I'm going to do my trick where I stop my knot from coming through my material. So I'm going to take my needle and put it through those two threads and pull it. So this is the same trick we've been doing where we stop our knot from coming through our fabric. I should be able to give this a few tugs without it coming through. So there's that. So now we're actually ready to sew these two halves together. My knot is attached and my needle is on the inside of my material, so it's on the back of my front piece. So now I'm going to take my back piece, I'm going to line them up. If they're not lining up very well, try flipping it around and seeing if maybe that side works a little better. As long as you cut them pretty well, they should fit together pretty okay. All right, so I think that's how mine goes. So now I have my fabric between these two pieces. I have my thread between the two pieces. So now what I'm going to do is called a whip stitch. When you do a whip stitch, you're either always going in the front of your material or you're always going through the back. I'm going to choose to always go through the front of my material. We're going to go down and around the arm, down and around the body, and we're going to make our way back up to the other shoulder before we stop for stuffing. So I'm going to take my felt monster, I'm going to take my needle, and I'm going to poke in the front. But I'm going through both pieces of material. Poke it through the front, grab it and pull. And what should happen is that that thread actually wraps around the arm, wraps all the way around. We can see it. I'm going to take my thread, and again, I'm coming out of the back, but I'm still going to poke it in the front. And pull. Keep those stitches nice and close together. The farther apart these are, the more it's going to fall apart. So you got to keep them nice and real close together. I'm going to take my needle and, take my needle, stick it always in the front. So I'm always sticking my needle in the front of my monster's arm. Like that. So we're starting to get this nice stitched together arm. Keep going, but again, always in the front. If your materials are a little bit off where they're cut differently, just do the best you can to get it through both pieces of material. Sometimes you have to push the stitch back where it's supposed to go. This one's sitting a little wide, so I'm going to push it back to, there we go, push it back to where it's supposed to go and give it a tug. So again, keep these really close together, otherwise the whole thing's going to fall apart as soon as you put stuffing in. So put it through the front. You can see it's a little harder to get this through on some of these fabrics, but ooh, that's really far into the hand. Let's take that out of there and let's redo that one. Let's go right there. This process takes up a lot more thread than any of the other things that we've done. So you're actually going to have to stop and sew off your, make the knot like we did before, about 3 or 4 times before we're done and ready to stuff. So I'm going to keep going on this. I'll come back when I'm ready to tie a knot so you guys can see how to do that on a different type of stitching. And then after that, we're ready for stuffing. I'm about ready to make the video on how to tie off once you are finished with your length of thread, but I did want to stop and show you real quick that you have to stop sewing once your thread is about 2 needles long. So my thread that's coming out right now is only about 2 needles long, 1, and then if I fold it, 2. So I have to stop sewing there, otherwise I absolutely will not be able to tie this in a knot, and worst case scenario, we would have to undo the whole thing. So you have to stop sewing when your thread is about 2 needles short.